Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentleman Comedy Month. If I'm looking at my calendar correctly, yes, this will be the final episode of Geeky Gentleman Comedy Month. Matt has chosen our topic today. Matt, what are we discussing today?
Today we are sort of springboarding off of the Ninja Sex Party episode, and I thought we would broaden that out and talk about comedy music. Talk about what we like in comedy music, maybe some artists we like, and what the general strengths and weaknesses are for music as a way to deliver comedy, and just see where it goes.
Totally. You know, it's interesting because, like, when we were talking about Ninja Sex Party last week, I was like, I brought up, like, Weird Al. I'm like, oh, you know, some of his songs are better, and then sometimes it's kind of phoned in, and you feel like he's just more trying to pad out an album than he's actually got a good concept here or something like that. And that's kind of how I feel about, like, a lot of comedy music. Like, sometimes it seems like a band has just a really, really funny idea for a song or two, and then they don't necessarily seem to, like, have enough to do, like, full albums that I actively want to listen to. Which is, I guess, why I'm impressed by Ninja Sex Party, because they're, like, my exception to that. Like, I remember Lonely Island's first album came out, you know, and it had all the big SNL tracks, I'm on a Boat, fucking Natalie Portman's Rap, all that shit. And it was a really, really fun album. But I haven't gone back to that since, like, 2010, 2011. And it just seems like... I remember one day at work, we tried to listen to a Weird Al album, and then, like, 3 songs were fucking polka covers, and that shit got old quick. And so it's just, I don't know, comedy music does seem to peter out relatively quickly, which I guess makes sense in a way, because to my mind at least, music is one of those things that is very rare to just do the one time, and you kind of want to listen to it multiple times, experience it multiple times, in a way that you don't necessarily with, like, movies or television shows. How many times have you listened to a song or an album compared to how many times have you watched through a TV show or a movie, you know? So I think that's a part of it, but, you know, you couple that with the fact that, like, how many times can a joke land for you? How many times is a joke legitimately, like, gut-busting funny?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely part of it. I'm very much a big music person. I play music. I've been around music most of my life. And so it's when you go back and you listen to a song or an album you really love, you're always either, you know, getting that rush of, you know, yes, I love this part, I love this, you know, I love this, you know, this chorus, I love this song, and you're potentially hearing new things and things like that, and it's always kind of a slightly different experience, at least for me it is anyways. And then when you listen to comedy music, that's a really good point. I mean, it's like listening to a stand-up routine over and over. Like, at some point, it just kind of, I feel like the jokes just stop working. So, like, Lonely Island, for example, because you brought up some of their stuff. You know, Lonely Island, I was, like everyone else, I think, kind of in love with that band when they first came out. And I'll still go back and I'll listen to, like, Jack Sparrow or I'm on a Boat or one of their, you know, big songs, and it still hits me. But it definitely wouldn't if I was listening to it with the same regularity that I re-listen to, you know, just regular music that I listen to.
I think that's one of the problems that probably they have to face a lot of the time is when you're going for, I guess, like a very specific, like every type of music's going for a specific mood, right? But like humor has to hit you differently than something that wants to make you sad, or something that wants to make you like happy and like want to dance, or something that's just there to just get you in a specific headspace, because humor almost requires you paying a little bit more attention than those do. Very rarely, only sometimes, and it normally depends on when it's used. Very rarely can like the beat of the music or the song, the soundtrack itself make you laugh. Normally it does have to come entirely from the lyrics, whereas sometimes just listening to a song that has no lyrics can make you feel sad or happy or remember something, etc. So there is like an intrinsic difficulty level, I think, to be able to craft them, that sometimes just doesn't lead to a 100% success record. But at the same time, I feel like you almost don't need to, because if you've got just that one, be it a one-hit wonder or something, it may not be good for the life cycle of the band, but just remembering that and being able to recommend, oh yeah, you put this on or something, that's always going to be a great first-time experience. Depending on obviously the person's humor, but the really good ones, they almost seem to transcend that, and everyone's like, oh yeah, that one made me laugh.
Yeah, like, I'm just trying to think here and say, I did a quick Google of like comedy bands, and so just the first couple of results that come up are Flight of the Conchords, Lonely Island, Tenacious D, Ninja Sex Party. Two that I don't know about, Axis of Awesome, some more I don't know about, and then Garfunkel and Oates, and then it starts to just peter out. And like, I know songs from a lot of these. Like Tenacious D is very much very silly concepts, to the point where Tenacious D came on a Lonely Island song and did a bit, right? So I don't know. It's interesting to think about like what you have to do to make a stamp in comedy music, to the point where like Weird Al is like the most iconic figure in comedy music, right? There's really no getting outside of his shadow. I think it's just because he's done so much of it. Like, it's the only thing he's known for. Jack Black is known for being a comedic actor more than he is, I think, a musician. The Lonely Island are known more as writers and SNL performers than they are as music group. Ninja Sex Party, it's fair to say I think Dan is known more as a YouTuber than he is for his music, though that is more of an even split than I think some of the other things are.
Yeah. And I mean, you brought up a good example. I mean, Axis of Awesome is a comedy music kind of one-hit wonder. They had one of their songs go really huge, which was their 4-chord song, which was basically them playing the pop song 4 chords that are in like every pop song ever, and just every line is a different line from an existing pop song. So he would start playing the intro to Don't Stop Believin', and then he would sing a different song over top of it, and then he would transition into a different song, all while keeping the same chord progression going. And that got really huge because that was just this inherently kind of funny, clever, amusing thing to watch, and it didn't really matter what your sense of humor was. It was kind of funny on the face of it. And so that's a great example. But then that band has not gone on to like really, like, none of their other songs have the number of hits on like their YouTube page for their music video that one has. I'm sure if I pulled up their Spotify, they would not have the same number of hits. So I mean, it's kind of interesting how Ninja Sex Party has managed to, Ninja Sex Party, Weird Al, Tenacious D to some degree, even people like Bo Burnham, they've managed to get a following going that's more dependent on their broader work than just that one song that got really big and really funny. And so I feel like it's the same way you have like one-hit wonders in music. I feel like you have that same thing with comedy music in kind of microcosm.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, because there are definitely rappers that are known more for comedy. Like, Ludacris was like how he started out, was just being Ludacris. Just, he'd have, like, the funny, goofy, videos and stuff on MTV in the mid-2000s and such. I'm trying to think of others. They bring up Lil Dicky. I hate that guy. Childish Gambino started out that way. Because Don Glover is more of a comedian, and so when he started doing music, it was more about just being like kind of silly goofiness. And then as he kept going, it took a much more serious turn, and so he started doing things that were like, rap's always got a little bit more of a biting edge, a bit of that, because some of it develops from just being able to kind of dunk on people. So it's an easier transition, I feel, than like if Lonely Island were to try to transition into, quote unquote serious music.
Yeah, Little Dicky's an interesting case just because he's walking this line of having this comedy music while also, featuring tons of major, huge, hit-making artists. Professional Rapper is probably like one of the only songs I actually kind of like by Lil Dicky, and it's got fucking Snoop Dogg in it. And so he's kind of an interesting case of someone who I generally don't think is that good, but is kind of trying to find where that line sits, where you can have mainstream success but still be very firmly planted in the realm of comedy. But he's one of the first ones I can think of that's like, I'm a comedy musician. My goal here is to make comedy music. But his name gets thrown around. He's done work with DJ Khaled and Chris Brown and, like I said, Snoop Dogg. And so it's like, he's kind of a weird one, whereas like those are not things that generally happen with comedy music. Generally there's this firm separation between them and kind of the mainstream. So it's been interesting to see that happen. It's just kind of unfortunate that it's with Lil Dicky because he's not great, but
Yeah, I'm just trying to sit here. I should have done all my research before the episode, but preparing for Geeky Gentleman, let's
Everyone,
not even joke.
open up your Geeky Gentleman bingo card where Ian has said this.
Yeah, right.
I picked a really I did unfairly pick a pretty broad topic.
I mean, I don't think this is broad. I think it actually might be too narrow. I'm kind of worried we won't get a full hour out of it, to be perfectly honest. So I'm just sitting here trying to think of...
And now the Geeky Gentleman will simply list off their favorite Weird Al Yankovic songs.
Right. I'm trying to think of comedic musicians and stuff, and so like I watched an absurd amount of Comedy Central at an age I probably should not have. But my dad didn't care about stuff like that. He saw me watching South Park and said, "Oh, it's a cartoon. It's got to be okay for kids."
Right.
But like one comedian that came to mind who's like kind of doing more of that blend of more stand up than music itself is Stephen Lynch, and he would do a lot of like radio appearances and stuff. And so like one of his songs that's really really good is "F Your Sister." Which I think that is a great fucking song. I had it on like an MP3 player, one of those big junk bulky ones that like ran on a AAA battery back in 2006. And I was listening to it in the car one day while my mom was driving. My friends in the backseat and we're listening, and just that song came up. And at first she laughs, and then he just keeps getting so detailed with it that my mom's like, "I'm gonna fucking turn it off." Yeah, I'm really nailing her. I'm gonna bend her over. And she just got pissed. It was
That's
hilarious.
so good.
Yeah. But no, like Stephen Lynch does kind of more of that. It's more stand up, just like strumming a guitar thing. That I think Bo Burnham's basically right in that kind of midsection of.
Yeah.
But it is, I don't know. It's an interesting thing to do because it's certainly not new. There's great comedy musicals. You got like the producers and stuff. I think musicals often work a little bit better when they do go for comedy. Like just embrace the kind of fact that I don't know about you, but I rarely burst into song when I'm feeling particularly emotional about something. So I think when musicals do comedy, it works a little bit better. But yeah, it seems like it's a very hard thing to make a career out of, but it's a very easy thing to get a hit out of, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to put it, because it inherently is going to appeal to a wider demographic of people who will also maybe excuse if the quality isn't that good with the production, because that can just add to the humor. That's why NSP got so big, is they knew that although the music talent for all of Danny and Brian's other projects prior was still just as good, because it was less well known and wasn't a thing, it was just harder to sell it as like an official thing. But NSP, by making the videos as well to go along with it, and them being so crude and kind of slapped together, it made it funnier. Like all the comedy comes from that. Inherently, you can just listen to the songs on their own and they're still funny. But like you get an added dimension to it that really helped them blow up. To while now when they do music videos, they still keep the crudeness because it's just kind of part of their brand. But then they'll just set things on fire, like have sets and studios and everything. So like, that's a really good example of why, if you're on a budget and you really want to, you're good at writing lyrics to songs and stuff, comedy might be a good place to take you there, simply because people will give you more slack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's like, I don't know, I'm thinking about ones, you got like Bob and Tom shows and those other like morning show things that allow things to just be more experimental because they've got to fill like 5 hours every day. So it's just, there's just starved for content, because, I don't know, radio's fucking weird. So you got like your Haywood Banks, who's also pretty, like he's a bit more old school with it. He's I'm sure you've heard the song, even if you don't recognize the name. Yeah, Toast. That's the Haywood Banks, and he also did like the Fly's Eyes and Pig's Wings and stuff, or Pig's Head Wings. And like so, there's like a novelty to it that just, again, it seems like it's really hard to get much of a career out of, because Lonely Island seems to, at least, I don't know, I guess I haven't paid much attention to Lonely Island, but I don't think they're releasing albums every year or anything like that. I think they do kind of just, they release an album every now and again, and then they seem to go off and, just write comedy in shows or movies or whatever. That seems more their focus.
I think Ninja Sex Party, like I said, they're one of the only comedy bands to be successful at the album game. I mean, truly, since like Weird Al. I mean, I don't think there are any other comedy bands or comedy musicians who are around right now who do the full album thing and make it work, because Ninja Sex Party has been putting out album after album. Obviously, some of those have been cover albums, but I mean,
which probably helps them a bit,
Yeah.
Helps legitimize them a little bit, maybe.
It does that for sure. It gives them time to write. So like that's what I really like about what they do, because the problem is pumping out an album year after year or whatever, you're gonna burn yourself out. And so they take time in between their original content albums, but they still keep their name out there by doing elaborate videos for cover songs where all they have to worry about is just the instrumentation of the cover. They don't actually have to write material in terms of like lyrics and things like that. So it allows them to keep their name out there, keep their fan base happy, but while at the same time giving themselves time to actually write in between original albums. So I mean, Ninja Sex Party is fast becoming one of the all-time most successful comedy acts, and that's honestly pretty crazy. Because I mean, when you think of like comedy acts who are on the same level of stardom as your big name pop stars, there aren't that many of them. I mean, there's Lonely Island, there's Weird Al, I guess Tenacious D, but I mean most people know just Jack Black before they know Tenacious D. And I struggle to kind of think of others. there are bands that are really big in certain circles. If you like metal music, you know who Gwar is. You probably know who Oakley Dokley is. But those are not bands that are big on any sort of national level.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the thing is that most of these guys that do this aren't really bands. You look at like Bo Burnham, he's not a band. He's basically a one-man show. He's plays piano, he plays guitar, and harmonica, which by far the most annoying instrument, right next to the fucking accordion. I'm kidding. Harmonicas are cool. Accordions are not. But like Bo Burnham's, like, he's not a band. He's a one-man show. He just kind of does it all. Like, you watch his stuff, and it's a stand-up act with musical accompaniment provided by Bo Burnham. Whereas like Ninja Sex Party puts on concerts. That's a very big distinction. I mean, I assume that Lonely Island and Tenacious D have done tours, right? Like, they have to have at some point. Okay. Yeah. I don't know what Lonely Island looks like on a stage, Like, there's very little... Because one of the fun things about Lonely Island was the videos. The T-Pain's in this one, Natalie Portman's in this one. You can't do that on stage, at least not, like, on a tour. They're not going to take Natalie Portman on tour. Maybe T-Pain, but definitely not Natalie Portman.
Right.
And
some
so
of it is, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's interesting to think about, like, just what it is, because, like, the Haywood Banks, the Stephen Lynch, it's mainly just a guy playing an instrument or two up on stage when you think of Cockney music. Ninja Sex Party and Tenacious D have the distinction of being full-on bands. I feel like Weird Al's the one who's kind of in between that. Sometimes it's just him. Sometimes he has, that celebrity accompaniment for the music side of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's true. Part of it is the surprise of it, because you're exactly right when you're talking about Natalie Portman, because I mean, that's the same thing with like I love Jack Sparrow. I think Jack Sparrow is one of the funniest Lonely Island songs. I don't know why, it just hits me. I really like it, but that's not really a song they can do if they're traveling and going on tour, because the whole joke is that it's Michael Bolton and he's singing about Pirates of the Caribbean. And without Michael Bolton being the one who's singing it, it's not anywhere near as funny, because he has that distinct voice and he's so well known for, not that. And so that's one of the things that's been great about, and again, I don't mean to keep wrapping it back to them, but that's one of the things that Ninja Sex Party has really done, is that they've made the whole act just these two characters that they created and that they play. Whereas Lonely Island did hit that level of success where they did kind of start just to rely on having these crazy celebrity cameos and things like that in some of their music. Not all of it, but some of it for sure. Mm-hmm. And so I wonder if that limits how reproducible their music is in like a traveling around and doing live stuff type way, because a lot of bands make more money touring and playing live than they do on album sales.
I think that's kind of why I do tend to lean more towards Tenacious D and Ninja Sex Party, because although the songs are really funny, at the same time I could still like rock out to them. It's like I feel like that's probably where I would actually. Ninja Sex Party sometimes does lean to more just it's just entirely funny. But you got stuff like 69 where it's just like a fucking saga. But like Tenacious D, legitimately, all of their fucking songs I think are like, yeah, hell yeah, like it still it still gets me hype. like there's still such an energy there, such a thing. Boy. Yeah.
I rock out to the metal on the daily.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
It's too good, and I think that gives them that edge where you can enjoy it on an entirely other level, where it gives it this unique, one of a kind thing, and that's probably why again you're struggling. Oh, well, these other things have done it, is because I think those two particularly have hit something where it's almost something else, because it's not just a stand-up routine or a parody video or mocking something. It is a funny song, but it is still a song. It is still a music. You can just listen to it, and like even without the vocals, it'd still be a good song. I think less so for Ninja Sex Party, depending on. But even then, as they've gotten more and more, they've gotten better and better. You can still get those songs with those, especially as they manage to get in more and more people to actually help them in that fact. So yeah, I think that gives them that extra edge, and it gives them that little bit that makes them so successful, makes them so re-listenable. You can continue to enjoy the content and the material because they are talented vocalists while also being funny. And sometimes definitely a talent with like The Lonely Island and Weird Al Yankovic, but that's not the forefront. The forefront is either the joke, or the Weird Al Yankovic specifically making fun of a popular thing. And that can be really funny, and that can be really good and suited well, especially if just how absurd it gets sometimes. Like the Yoda song just continues to stay in my head throughout all of time. But like there is like a difference that I think might hurt the longevity of it.
Well, that's when you get into like your Jonathan Colton and your They Might Be Giants and groups like that are just kind of weird, quirky songwriters who just happen to have that sort of comedic slant to them, but they're not necessarily setting out to be comedians. Jonathan Colton, did Re Your Brains, Code Monkey. He has a fucking hilarious folk acoustic cover of what is it? I Like Big Butts. He's got, and
Richard
they're not
Cheese.
really. Say what?
Richard Cheese. Richard Cheese does lounge covers of really vulgar rap songs.
Oh, nice.
My neck, my back, lick my pussy and my crack.
Well, that's what he's like. Baby got back. I don't know why I couldn't think of it, but he's like, LA face with the Oakland booty, and it just like has this like real soft acoustic guitar. It's really fucking funny. But like those are acts, and Guar to some extent. Those are acts that are like, they're not really setting out to be comedians. They're just kind of silly. They're just kind of a silly, quirky group. And I think their hits, I think they have more strong fan bases than some of the people who are just trying to be comedians but with music. I think the just quirky, weird, funny, like musicians who just happen to be funny tend to have higher longevity, more dedicated fan bases than comedians who do music, I guess, if that kind of makes sense.
No,
And that's not to throw shade
at
comedy musicians. I'm just making that observation.
That's like what Steel Panther does too.
Yeah.
Very, very similar thing to Ninja Sex Party, where it's just the song itself. It is just 80s hair metal basically, but like the lyrics just make it absolutely ridiculous. You're the only girl I like to screw when I'm not on the road. It's how romantic, and it's a fucking love ballad, and it's great. So yeah, that's, I don't know. I guess that is the distinction that kind of sets them up sets certain things up for longevity and actually be entertaining, in like the long term be re-listenable, because again it's kind of hard to listen to Weird Al's like albums on the regular, not just because of the polka music, but like each song just is a parody of another song, and so like you can listen to a Weird Al mix and it's kind of hard to get into a groove of the album when one's a parody of a 80s pop song and then the other's like a hard rock or classic rock song kind of thing. It's like there's there's a disjointed feel to that that'll throw you off in a way that like Steel Panther, it's all a consistent tone. So if you're going to be in the mood for that tone, it's fine, and you can go from song to song to song. Same with the Ninja Sex Party. Same with Tenacious D.
Yeah, and I mean it frustrates me because like Weird Al can write original, like good funny songs. Like Albuquerque is not a cover of anything, and it's hilarious. And so it's weird because you go back and listen to a Weird Al album, and yeah, part of it is not only are they all in different styles, but they're also kind of snapshots of that period in time to a certain extent. So if you that's the thing, is that with doing covers and parodies, is that they don't always age, because like it's dependent on you being aware of what the popular songs were at that time. Like, yeah, we're all old enough where we remember I Want It That Way, so eBay is still funny to us. But like some kid who was born in the middle of the 2010s, if they go back and listen to Weird Al and they listen to the song, if they listen to like eBay, or if they listen to really any of the other like cover songs like White and Nerdy or something like that, are they still going to find it funny without the context of really knowing culturally the size of the songs that he's covering or parodying? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of examples of like, because I feel like it's had to have happened. Can you guys think of an example of a parody song that ended up getting bigger than the original song it was parodying? I feel like that's had to have happened at some point, and I'm just not placing one in my head.
I mean, like, I don't know. What is the one? Is it? I'm blanking. I should have done some research too. No, there's the Weird Al Yankovic song that is No, I guess that one's not a cover, is it? Is Stuck in the Drive-Thru a cover of anything, or a parody
Yeah,
of
it's
anything?
Stuck in the
Trapped in the Closet by R. Kelly. That's right.
Yeah.
That's not a song I know at all, but I know Trapped in the Drive-Thru because that song's hilarious. So I know on a personal level there are some songs where I know the Weird Al version way better than I know the original. But like culturally, I don't know. White and Nerdy is the only one I can think of that maybe.
I feel like Riding Dirty was a more popular song that Riding Dirty is something you heard in like movies and stuff all the time.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just a thought, and I'm like, I'm sure there is one, but I can't remember it off the top of my head, which is, frustrating.
Yeah.
I mean, there are Minecraft parody songs that have surpassed the originals on YouTube. So that's a thing. Which I guess maybe takes me to another place in that is, how do you guys feel about like when people like TFS or Little Kariba will do comedy songs for their series?
Like the
Vegeta Mustache song, or like the Yu-Gi-Oh! Bridge would just be like doing loads of Lady Gaga song parodies, and it'd be like a tradition. Like there's stuff like that. And Masako kind of does that as well, where Masako will do parodies of like Dragon Ball songs for like onto the whatever the Frozen song is called.
Into the Unknown, he did Onto the Snake Way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, that isn't even comedy to me. That's just, like, adapting the tune. I'm surprised that video didn't get taken down, to be honest with you. It doesn't even feel like it registers as comedy or parody. It just seems like, yeah, here's me just changing the lyrics. Like, I don't know, because then there are, like, TFS parodies, like, very specific parodies. Like, what's the one from Hamilton that they did with Frieza? Matt, you're the musical theater nerd in the call right now. What's the King George song from Hamilton called?
I've never seen or listened to Hamilton. I'm sorry.
Oh, I think it's You'll Be Back.
I have friends who never shut up about it, and the whole effect has kicked in where the more they tell me to listen to it, the more I'm just like, no, shut up. So I'm sorry. I know nothing about Hamilton. That's I so
yeah, it's called You'll Be Back, and
phrase is just give up.
Yeah, Just Give Up is the Frieza take on the Hamiltons You'll Be Back. And then they did the fucking Nappa Killing in the Name Of, which is just ridiculous, from TFS. I don't know, like, see, that's like a fun novelty kind of thing. I mean, I enjoy certainly listening to those songs. I've woken up to get ready for work some mornings, and I've played some TFS song playlists. Those can be fun. Well, I think that's like a cool treat for the subscriber base kind of thing.
I remember, do you guys remember when that song came out back in like 2013? The like, what does the fox say?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So like that was a really interesting example because that was, you know, clearly a parody song. Well, not a parody song, but clearly a comedy song. And that was something where that was created as part of a Norwegian show. There was like a Norwegian like sort of talk show. I think it was like a comedy talk show. And they made that song as like a segment for that show. And it just blew up like kind of unexpectedly. And so that was a situation where a bunch of people saw this random, bizarre comedy song without any of the context for what it was supposed to be or why it was supposed to be the way it was. And that's kind of an interesting example. I mean, the same thing happened with Looking for Group. There's a web comic called Looking for Group that was about sort of looking for group being like, you know, when you're an MMO and you're looking for a group to join you on like a raid or whatever. So there's a web comic called Looking for Group about, you know, different characters in like a MMO fantasy type world, and just their misadventures. And they put out a parody of Part of Your World from The Little Mermaid called Slaughter Your World, with this like really cool animated music video with the necromancer sorcerer character going around and just murdering a whole town, trying to decide what should I butcher them with, fire or cold. And it's really fucking funny. But like most of the people who found that video, they didn't even know that it was based off of characters from this pre-existing thing. And so it's just kind of, comedy music has this quality to it where it can go viral beyond whatever originally spawned it. And I think that's kind of something interesting.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
What do you want from me, Ian?
I don't know, man.
That beautiful soliloquy.
Yeah, Alfie. Like, you're the one that apparently did research, because you're dunking on us for not, even though you just found out about the topic last night. So what are the roots of comedy music, Alfie? You're supposed to know these things.
I'm glad you asked. I always like to wait until, you know, folks at home, these jabronis, not what you came to hear. You want these dulcet British tones telling you what's going on. And after they've said their piece about their ninja sex parties and, you know, trite. I wanted to talk about the real origins of comedy music and where it all began. And if you really look back at it, you can tell that... Oh no, I just cut out that whole thing. Well, I don't want to repeat it, so I guess we'll just move on. Anyway,
Well, okay, here's something. How much comedy music isn't even really from comedy musicians? And like Ninja Sex Party and Steel Panther are obviously still around. They're full-on bands and musicians that are like making hits. But how much of comedy music these days is just random fucking like YouTube videos made by nobody? Like you've got people who mash together, like Hedgehog Stew, where they mash together lines from the Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon, put a tune to it, and it just takes off and goes viral. Or like weird song mashups that are like there's one, it's a mashup of Basket Case by Green Day, Fireflies, and Gangster's Paradise. And because of the structure of those songs, they can all kind of fit together and go on top of each other. And it's just really bizarre and weird. And so like how much comedy music is kind of evolved from that like ultimate showdown of ultimate destiny model, where it's not even really a musician or a band or a group. It's just, here's this weird viral song that people are passing around a bunch. You know, you think of like Chocolate Rain, you think of like, you know, badger, mushroom, you know, like these.
Badger,
yeah, exactly.
badger,
So like
mushroom,
there's also that element to it, the viral video comedy hit. And Ultimate Showdown of Ultimate Destiny, I know Neil Cicierega, who did that. He also did a bunch of other stuff. Like he did Potter Puppet Pals and all that stuff. So he's had a big career. But like a lot of these are just weird viral one-hit wonder songs that are not by actual like musical artists. They're just people uploading like fucking weird shit onto the internet. And that's, I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, my favorite one of all of those is a YouTuber called Triple Q. And Triple Q, just as an example of the kind of content you can find on this here channel, he or she or whatever enlightened being they provide themselves out, released a little song called Senpai Gonna Love It, which is, for those not aware, is a mashup of Hood Gonna Love It by J-Rock feat Kendrick Lamar and Haru Modoki by Nagi Yanagi. And it is glorious. It is just a mashup of a hard rap song with Japanese cute girls singing it. And it's amazing, and the whole channel is full of stuff like that. But it's also those kind of mashup channels, man. I think like, yes, you get those ones which are just like so incredibly like hilarious. But then you get some which are like actually like really fucking like slap. Like there's just so many versions of like someone messed up Sonic Force's fist bump with You're a Superstar from Mario Odyssey, and it like,
oh, that's amazing.
It's so good. It's like it's a really good song.
There's this guy, and this is another great example. There's this guy, he's got a YouTube channel. I forget his name, but he's got a YouTube channel where he does like vocal covers of songs. And he's this like really bigger dude. He's got like a big beard, and he just kind of sits there with his camera in like really kind of shitty quality pointed up at him, and like he'll let the song play. And so like the song will start playing, and then he'll get into the singing his cover of it, and he always turns it into All Star by Smash Mouth. So no matter what song it is, like he'll like, one of my favorites that I occasionally go back and watch is his Through the Fire and the Flames cover. So he'll have Through the Fire and the Flames, like an instrumental version of it playing, and then at the part where it's like supposed to be like on a cold winter morning, he'll just be like, somebody once told me the world was gonna roll me. And he just does that for like every song, and he's going through like just a massive list of songs. It's just like that's the one joke. That's the joke that he does, and it's like that's really funny in like a meme kind of millennial internet humor kind of way. But I just don't know what the longevity on that is, if it has any. Or like Magic Mike, who takes like live concert footage of bands and like pitch shifts it and does a bunch of weird stuff to it to just make it like a surreal experience. And that kind of stuff is just really bizarre and so very suited to kind of internet meme culture and humor. But they're not really acts. They're just people who do comedy that's music based.
And like that's the thing is so much stuff like Smash Mouth's All Star isn't a particularly good song. It's just it got used so often. I'm pretty sure if you made a movie between the year 1999 and 2002, you were legally obligated to put All Star by Smash Mouth in that movie. But like it's just it's such a memeable song, and there's a lot of songs like that because especially because of things like TikTok and whatnot that and Vine before it that really took off. Of just, oh, this isn't really funny, but if I put this song on it, suddenly now it's hilarious. And I don't know why it works, but admittedly it does. You know, the Ultra Instinct theme does that. The Ultra Instinct theme is not comedy music. So I guess that's more just a testament to like the flexible nature of comedy being just that inversion of expectations. At its most base level, that's what comedy always comes down to: is you expect A, you get zebra. No, nothing. I couldn't get it like a pity laugh for that. God damn it. You expect A, you get tomato. And so just with that being the root of it all, you can take anything, no matter how like deathly serious, and just if you juxtapose it just right, you get something that is just unbelievably funny. Like the example that comes to mind to me is, and I guess at this point it's more about doing comedy via using music, like misusing music maybe. The thing that comes to mind to me is the Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck interview right after Batman v Superman came out. And it's just the fucking that sad ass song just plays. It slowly zooms in on Ben Affleck the whole time, and it's so depressing but so damn funny.
Was that the one where they did like the Johnny Cash Hurt? Was that what they used for that?
No, it's
forget.
Is it Don't Fear the Reaper or is it Dust in the Wind?
Oh, maybe it's Dust in the Wind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God, so good. Well, my prime example of that is the Lonely Island like SNL sketch where it's like these people in a room and they shoot, and there's like it's a they shoot each other and it's all tragic. But every time someone gets shot, it's like, ooh, what you say? The Jason Derulo song. And it gets to the point where they just keep shooting each other. It just keeps starting over and over. And it's so good. And that's like a big thing in like YouTube land, is just throwing a random song over something and making it just funny, because it just keeps going. The joke just keeps going. It just gets funnier. Those are both really good examples of music as comedy, as opposed to like trying to write funny songs, just using music in an unexpected way. I guess kind of like that all comes from like, I guess like rickrolling people and stuff like that.
Well, the other example that came to mind for me is it's not like universal. It doesn't always work. Because there was one that was just, oh my God, it was the funniest shit I've ever seen in my entire life. It was like an ad that was meant to be like raising awareness about how awful a problem it is that like landmines just still exist in countries that had wars, like, you know, that are long past. And so the intention of it was to show just how awful this would be if it was happening to your family. So like, you know, this happens in third world countries, but like if we put it here, you'd see how awful it is. So it's just It just shoots it and stuff. And so it's a like teenage girl, and she's going to play a soccer game, and her parents are sitting there on the sidelines and watching, and then just someone steps on a landmine and it blows up, and people are like running around screaming, blood and body parts everywhere. People are crying. It's terrible. The person edited this video and waited till just the moment that they stepped on the landmine and played yakety sax over it, and just ungodly loud yakety sax over all of that chaos just completely changes the message of the goddamn scene. And it's like it's so ridiculous, and it doesn't work for everyone, because I've shown that video to people and they've either not laughed, which is awkward, or they've been like visibly mad and disgusted, which is worse. You begin to feel like a real bastard when that happens. But it's crazy the kind of context changes you can get when you put music to a thing. And that's, I don't know, it's weird to see just how music itself can recontextualize things, because I'm sure you guys have seen these where people will take like a trailer for a movie and make it look like a trailer for a completely different movie, and all they do is like maybe recut it a bit, but also just change the music used. The big example I've seen of that is taking American Psycho and making it look like a comedy, like a rom-com. Yep. And that's one of those things where it's just all you have to do is you just change the emotions that are attached to that type of song, and it changes the direction of the whole scene.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're definitely right about that. And I mean, that kind of comes into more just music as a way to set a tone, and how you can do that with comedy. I looked up that Landmine video with the Benny Hill song, and it kind of got me thinking about how some music has no meaning left except for just its comedy. And of course the Benny Hill song is like that. You know, everyone just knows that as the song to play when people are running around and there's slapstick going on. And I mean, for all I fucking know, that's what the original context was. I don't know. But like, that's a song, like certain songs, that's just what they are now. They're just, you know them for that context of being like a humorous, silly song.
I don't know, it's interesting to see how that works, and I guess that's not really comedy music, or at least not in the way that you would envision the topic, but it definitely seems at least tangentially related, and maybe kind of why those things work the way they do.
Well, I figured we had to talk about something. I mean, we're almost an hour in, and I ran out of things to say about comedy music like 15 minutes ago, so.
Yeah.
See, I'm barely even sober.
Yeah. I mean, how's that different from any other episode?
That's a good point. Do you remember the oh god, what is it? The South Park anime episode where they make that like anime opening song, the like "Let's Fighting Love," like making fun of like anime opening bits. Yeah, it's so good.
That sounds so good.
It's so good.
That's fine. I'm still waiting to make the Geeky Gentleman anime intro.
Yeah.
And how could I forget?
Let's get that money on that.
And okay, I was trying to think of an example besides the Benny Hill song, but there are some songs that like culturally, in like the zeitgeist of nerd culture, you just can't take them seriously anymore. Like no one can take them seriously. And like Bring Me to Life, right, is one of them. Like Bring Me to Life by Evanescence, that is not a song that anyone takes seriously anymore. It's not a bad song. Like it's a good song, like a lot of like Linkin Park and stuff from that era. But because it's so associated with like that certain group of like edgelords and things like that, it like culturally everyone just kind of looks back on it and it's just like, oh, this is cute and hilarious. So like there are certain things that just haven't aged well that were meant to be very serious that are now just hilarious, and Bring Me to Life is like the first example that comes to mind of that. And I think that's kind of interesting how like music that was once considered very, very serious and emotional and it's now just kind of fucking hilarious, right?
I know I don't agree, and I know just given our opinions we haven't agreed, but a lot of people think of like Crush 40 like that.
I like Crush 40 though.
You know, exactly, but like that is outside of the Sonic fandom. Those songs, like people listen to Live and Learn and they will just like crack up because they just think it's like indicative of like what this blue hedgehog is now rocking out like from the Genesis days. And like you look at it like that, it's kind of funny. It is funny, but like I guess that might also be down to if you're into those things, that those music. If you've just been a die-hard Evanescence fan, you're not going to view it that way.
Right.
So I think it almost is outside. Stuff like that is always out of the cultural sphere. Like some people, especially like older generation, they will listen to All Star straight. They will think, "Oh yeah, I remember that." Like it boggles my mind, but you know, it's like if that started playing, I don't think my mum would bat an eye.
All Star is a good example. Last Resort by Papa Roach, great example. That's just comedy now, even though it's like literally about like killing himself. Like that is just, it's just funny.
That's paradise.
Yeah. And the Sonic thing is, the Sonic thing is like you can't sit there as Crush 40 and write a song like All Hail Shadow and think that everyone's going to take you seriously anyways. So like people making fun of Crush 40 songs doesn't bother me in the least because I love their ridiculousness and I like to imagine they're making fun of them in good faith, but I'm sure they're not. But that's beside the point. But yeah, I mean, like Sonic music's a good example. I mean, I can't take Fist Bump seriously because it's Doug Robb from fucking Hoobastank, and I used to listen to Hoobastank all the goddamn time. They're kind of an important band to me. They're one of the bands my dad showed me when I was a kid. So then I'm just like, and we've got this new Sonic song featuring Doug Robb from Hoobastank. I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like now I'm just picturing the lead singer of Hoobastank singing a Sonic the Hedgehog song, and I can like my brain can't fucking wrap my around that. So like Fist Bump just. I can't I can't listen to it and not think it's hilarious because I just hear, oh yeah, it's the lead singer of Hoobastank. I've listened to like all their albums. So like there's things like that where you kind of bring your own history to it. I mean, my wife is a diehard Linkin Park fan. She loves Linkin Park because they're a super fucking talented band. But it's hard not to listen to Linkin Park and not think about all the like anime music videos from like back in the early 2000s that all the edgelords put together. And she and I both remember those kind of fondly for how silly they are. So it's I don't know. It's a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Recontextualizing songs just because of them becoming memes is one of those things where like I think that's probably always happened to some extent, but it's just internet culture just speeds everything up, so now it happens 10 times faster than it used to.
Yeah.
Because like I think by the 90s, I'm proud to be an American kind of became a bit of a meme, like kind of like a proto meme, Yeah. And I think the reason for that is like Ronald Reagan used it and like milked everything he could out of it in like one campaign ad that like the ad meant nothing. It was just pictures of Ronald Reagan being proud to be an American, and the song was played, and then like just it got him fucking elected though, and so just every like SNL and every late night talk show and stuff would just take the piss out of it, and so by the mid 90s you'd see Proud to Be an American playing things, and it was just a joke. And so I think like that's kind of a thing that's always happened, but just because it's the internet, it's just so much easier to do that now. And so it happens to so many things because it's like, all right, what is the most 2003 sounding song I could possibly play right now? Wake Me Up by Evanescence.
Well, I mean, and how do you listen to Don't Fear the Reaper without thinking, more cowbell? Right? Like you can't. You can try, and it's a great song. Like that's the thing. I think sometimes like you lose that like Bring Me to Life is it's a good song. It's well written. It's well performed. It's not everyone's cup of tea. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but it's like it's good. It's not bad. And like Don't Fear the Reaper, or just The Reaper, I think, is a phenomenal song. It grooves so much, but like you just think more cowbell. Like that's it. That's just all you got in your head. And so it's kind of interesting how that can kind of happen where like we've taken a song and we've made it into a joke. We've turned the song into comedy. Like, Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley, that was a big hit, and it's not the worst song in the world, but it's a joke now. And I mean, a lot of those were never that good. Like All Star's not like amazing or anything like that, but I mean that's kind of interesting. Like I wonder if that hurts the legacies of these songs at all, or if it really doesn't fucking matter. I wonder that, because that's kind of a thing.
I can't remember what I was watching, but like some guy did a whole fucking video essay on something. I have no memory of what it actually was at this point. But like he just used All Star by Smash Mouth as like the journey of him experiencing this thing, and like even went to a Smash Mouth concert and like shot video of himself being hype at this fucking like little rundown bar concert that Smash Mouth was playing.
Oh, God.
And of course they had to play All Star. And you just tell like the band's super not into it anymore.
Yep.
It's so funny to like just seeing the footage of the band playing All Star on stage, and then comparing it to like how fucking cool he was trying to look in the video from like 1999 and shit is so ridiculous. Because it's just I've become a meme now.
That's there's this video compilation that's one of my favorites. It's got like 8 million views. It's called Brendan Urie is Sick of I Write Sins Not Tragedies. And it's just Brendan Urie of Panic at the Disco, and every time that like do from like I Write Sins Not Tragedies comes up, and he's just like he just makes a snide comment like while he's doing the like, oh well, imagine as I'm standing in the shoes of Pierce Codor. It's really fucking funny how like these bands get these huge hit songs that like I Write Sins Not Tragedies is another one. Like that song is kind of a joke almost, and like he's sick of it and everyone's kind of sick of it, and that's kind of an unfortunate thing that happens is that the internet grabs a hold of it and just makes it into a meme basically, and now he's just like he doesn't even really like singing it all that much. And so I mean that's kind of interesting. It's a little bit more removed from the comedy aspect of it, but I like it's an interesting thing to think about.
Certainly. Well, do we want to keep going? We've got about an hour in here. Usually I try to push us to about an hour 15, but if we're kind of stretching to think of other things, I think now would probably be a good time as any to end. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I'm running on fumes at this point.
Yeah, that basically covers everything.
Okay, cool. Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed us beating this one down into the ground. But that's okay. It happens. Alfie, I believe it's going to be your turn, sir. We need a review topic for next week, and you have no restrictions.
Oh my, oh me, oh my, oh me, oh my. How about we talk about
pick something Superman. You're Alfie. Just
wow,
be on brand.
You're just gonna fucking go that. Have you done the two? Yeah, I guess whatever. Why not, right? Have you done the 2 parts of the recent Death of Superman movie?
No.
The animated.
Been meaning to watch that.
Yeah, we'll do both those films then.
Okay, just as a single review. Sounds great. All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
I am the champion of the oppressed.
And I am the Sonic Erotica lover.
And we are your geeky gentlemen. And we will be discussing things.